No, no, it's okay for me.
Book. I want to see how many pages are left. Yeah, 4 pages left. So now we are exploring the passages that Sri Aurobindo has written about Ashwapati. And Ashwapati is receiving all these things from the highest heights. And he's in contact with the Divine Mother, and he's in contact with the Lord. So we're continuing now, and we go very slowly, as most of you know, trying to catch something of the essence of each line or a group of lines. So we'll begin. We ended with the tripod seat of mind. The tripod seat of mind, of course, is the physical mind, the vital mind, and the dynamic mentality. But the normal human mind has 3 layers. And these are the 3 layers: physical mind, vital mind, and reason, the thought mentality. So we had the last line we read was, all was made wide above, all lit below. So he sees this great wideness above, everything is light below. And therefore the next line tells us, in darkness core, she dug out wells of light. On the undiscovered depths imposed a form, lent a vibrant cry to the unuttered vasts, and through great shoreless, voiceless, starless breadths, bore earthward fragments of revealing thought, hewn from the silence of the ineffable. Quite a lot here to look at. So, first of all, in this darkness, the divine creatrix comes down, and Sri Aurobindo uses this great word, dug out wells of light. And even on the undiscovered depths, she imposed a form. So these undiscovered depths are in the transcendent. They are formless, featureless, immutable, perfect, but there's no form at all in the transcendental. But here we see that she has dug out wells of light where? On the undiscovered depths, imposed a form. So from the formless comes the form. The form doesn't come automatically. It has to come from the formless. And so the divine creatrix has imposed a form on these undiscovered depths. Now, Sri Aurobindo tells us in one of his letters on yoga, form is the basic means of manifestation. And without it, it may be said that the manifestation of anything is not complete. Even if the formless logically precedes form, yet it is not illogical to assume that in the formless, form is inherent and already existent in a mystic latency. Otherwise, how could it be manifested? And then again he says in the essays on the Gita, each form is a symbol of some divine power, vibhuti, concealed in it, and to the seeing eye, each finite carries in it its own revelation of the infinite. So within that finite is the infinite also. So lastly, in the Upanishads, he says, practically, therefore, all form is only an operation of consciousness, impressing itself with presentations of its own workings. Lent a vibrant cry to the unuttered vasts, vibrant, pulsating with energy and vigor. And through great shoreless, voiceless, starless breaths, this is again in the infinity, she bore earthward fragments of revealing thought, hewn from the silence of the ineffable. Look how Sri Aurobindo uses words for us. First of all, she dug out wells of light. Then she imposes a form on the undiscovered depths. Then she lent a vibrant cry to the unuttered vasts, and through great shoreless, voiceless, starless breaths, what did she do? Bore earthward fragments of revealing thought, hewn from the silence of the ineffable. To hew is generally known as cutting something down. You hew a tree with an axe. You cut something by repeated blows. And so here is a very interesting use of the word hewn. It's obviously not cutting something like an axe, but it's cut. Pardon? Chiseled, cut, formed. All these words would be correct. From the silence of the ineffable. So it comes from the highest transcendent. And Sri Aurobindo has a lot to tell us about the ineffable, but I'll only read a couple to you. In the Life Divine, he says, the absolute is for us the ineffable. And in the Synthesis of Yoga, he says, a transcendent bliss, unimaginable and inexpressible by the mind and speech, is the nature of the ineffable, that broods immanent and secret in the whole universe and in everything in the universe. Its presence is described as a secret ether of the bliss of being. of which the scripture says that if this were not, none could for a moment breathe or live. And this spiritual bliss is here also in our hearts. See, science has not yet been able to bridge that gap of materialism to understand the ether. And the ether is what allows us to breathe and to live. When science can reach that, it'll come very close to the yoga. A voice in the heart uttered the unspoken name. A dream of seeking thought, wandering through space. So much unthought. Entered the invisible and forbidden house. The treasure was found of a supernal day. We know that supernal means synonymous with heavenly. So now we have to go back and see. A voice in the heart uttered the unspoken name. Now, I've read to you previously of the Word. Remember last week? Creation by the Word. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So that's creation by the Word. But the name is a little different. Name, in its deeper sense, is not the word by which we describe the object, but the total of power, quality, character of the reality which a form of things embodies, and which we try to sum up by a designating sound. A knowable name, nomen. Nomen, in this sense, we might say, is Numen. The secret names of the gods are their power, quality, character of being, caught up by the consciousness and made conceivable. The infinite is nameless, but in that namelessness, all possible names, numens of the gods, the names and forms of all realities, are already envisaged and prefigured, because they are there, latent and inherent in the all-existence. Powerful statements. Oh, a dream of seeking thought, wandering through space. And I'll just quote a few things on thought because it's very important from the Life Divine and Essays Divine and Human. Life Divine first. Thought in itself, in its origin on the higher levels of consciousness, is a perception, a cognitive seizing of the object or of some truth of things which is powerful, but still a minor and secondary result of spiritual vision. So he doesn't say it's the highest at all. A comparatively external and superficial regard of the self upon the self, the subject upon itself, or something of itself as object. So all thought is only a perception. There's no absolute truth or reality in it. And in his Essays Divine and Human, he humorously tells us, a thought is an arrow shot at the truth. It can hit a point, but not cover the whole target. But the archer is too well satisfied with his success to ask anything farther. So we move on. There's so much thought. It's in the letters on yoga, he says, thought is quite possible without words. Children have thoughts, animals too. Thoughts can take another form than words. Thought perceptions come first. Language comes to express the perceptions and itself leads to fresh thoughts. Interesting, huh? Very interesting. It's possible but without words. Entered the invisible and forbidden house, colon after house, because he wants to tell us that the treasure was found of a supernal day. Now we get into this line, in the deep subconscient glowed her jewel lamp. What is this subconscient that Sri Aurobindo speaks of so often in all of his works, in Life Divine, in Letters on Yoga, in many, many other works, the synthesis of yoga. So here's one from his Letters on Yoga. The subconscient is a thing of habits and memories, and repeats persistently, or whenever it can, old suppressed reactions, reflexes, mental, vital, or physical responses. It must be trained by a still more persistent insistence of the higher parts of the being to give up its old responses and take on the new and true ones. This is a problem, of course, that we all have. Things from my father still come back to me. Actions, something he would say, something my mother would do. And you think you've gotten rid of them, but they're lodged somewhere down there in the physical mind and very hard to get rid of. Very difficult. So in another letter on yoga, he says about the subconscious, it is the submental base of the being and is made up of impressions, instincts, habitual movements that are stored there. Whatever movement is impressed in it, it keeps. Wow.
Is it like the samskara?
Hmm?
Is it like the samskara?
No, it's much deeper. Whatever movement is impressed in it, it keeps. If one impresses the right movement in it, it will keep and send up that. Interesting. Huh? That is why it has to be cleared of old movements before they can be a permanent and total change in the nature. When the higher consciousness is once established in the waking parts, it goes down into the subconscious and changes that also, makes a bedrock of itself there also. Interesting. Now I have to go to the next page. We're on. Oh, what happened? 42. Oh. Okay. It's going to be here, I think. And then I need to go to 42. There we are. Good. Lifted, it showed the riches of the cave, where by the miser traffickers of sense, unused, guarded beneath night's dragon pores, in folds of velvet darkness draped they sleep, whose priceless value could have saved the world. Oh, a lot to go through here. First of all, what is the cave? I asked Temi, and she said very simply, the cave is the subconscious depths. Alok says the word cave refers here to the subconscious domains, where the past gleamings of light lie stored and hidden, guarded by the forces and beings of darkness. Where? By the miser traffickers of sense. Now,
but cave,
yes.
C is capital in
Which?
lifted and showed the riches of the cave. C.
Yes, the cave is capitalized,
Yeah.
yes. And the cave here is truly the subconscious. Yeah. Now we have this line, where by the miser traffickers of sense. Well, we know what a trafficker is, and we're hearing about them all the time, but it's not that exactly here, but it's someone who exchanges goods and services for money. So that's a trafficker. But these traffickers are misers, and they're miser traffickers of sense, unused, guarded beneath night's dragon paws. What does Sri Aurobindo have to tell us about night? Very briefly. The night is the symbol of the ignorance or avidya in which men live, just as light is the symbol of truth and knowledge. In a way, in the way that one treads with the greater light above, even every difficulty gives its help and has its value. And this very important end. And night itself carries in it the burden of the light that has to be. So night holds within itself the burden of the light that must come. We have not heard this in any of the other avatars, vibhutis. This is pure Sri Aurobindo. Then he says, unused, guarded beneath night's dragon paws, in folds of velvet darkness draped, they sleep, whose priceless value could have saved the world. Now he's going to tell us the same thing again that I just read to you in Letters on Yoga, but in poetry. A darkness carrying morning in its breast. Wow. A darkness carrying morning in its breast. Looked for the eternal wide returning gleam, waiting the advent of a larger ray and rescue of the lost herds of the sun. I wish we had Vladimir with us now, because all of this is pure Veda. Or Purani, I could have brought Purani's book. But the lost herds of the sun, let me quote from Amal in his hundreds of letters to me on phrases in Savitri. I think this is the reflection of a Vedic image and refers to the world of the ignorance, where what has come from the truth has gone astray. So the lost herds of the sun were in the truth, but they've gone astray, and they are waiting for the advent of a larger ray and their own rescue. Now, Temi says, the cattle of the sun, the cows of the sun have gone down into the darkness of the caves, and the rishis have to rescue them. It is the parable of the light going into the darkness, and we have to retrieve the light.
Naradji, the same image comes in Savitri, the very first canto. The darkness comes and touch the earth what to
Yes,
say, sucks everything.
yes.
However light flows, it got into the darkness.
And it is this darkness in Canto 1 of Book 1 that Sri Aurobindo revised 50 times. 50 times. Each time he rose to a higher realm of experience, he rewrote it again and again and again, 50 times. I think it's probably the most powerful canto on the darkness and the attempt of the light to penetrate the darkness in all of Savitri. Alok said the powers and forces that emerged from the divine, but have now strayed from their purpose and fallen into a state of darkness and ignorance. And so we had a full stop after rescue the lost herds of the sun. In a splendid extravagance of the waste of God, dropped carelessly in creation's spendthrift work, left in the chantier of the bottomless world, and stolen by the robbers of the deep, the golden shekels of the eternal lie, hoarded from touch and view and thought's desire, locked in blind antras of the ignorant flood, lest men should find them and be even as gods. And we're going to end there because I have a lot to cover with you here. So, spendthrift. Someone who is spendthrift is wastefully extravagant. Left in the chantier of the bottomless world, Sri Aurobindo puts in the French word. And Jumour and I talked about this, and she says in French, it is a building site where you dig the foundations. There's a lot of building. In order to build up, you have to dig down. It's like building a world. So, left in the chantier of the bottomless world and stolen by the robbers of the deep. The robbers are, in the Veda, vital beings who come to steal away the good condition, or else to steal the gains of the sadhana. And that's where the golden shekels of the eternal lie. The shekels are coin or money, you can say, riches. The eternal, Sri Aurobindo says, that which is cannot perish. It can only lose itself. All is eternal in the eternal spirit. Each is the whole eternal concealed. And that's from the life divine, that each of us is the whole eternal, concealed in these seemingly separate bodies. And he says in the life divine, the eternal is our refuge. All the rest are false values. The ignorance and its mazes, the self-bewilderment of the soul in phenomenal nature. hoarded from touch and view and thought's desire, locked in blind antras of the ignorant flood. An antra is a cavern or a cave, lest men should find them and be even as gods. Now, I wanted to close tonight, if I can find this thing that I wanted to share with you. Here we are. No, yeah, okay. Okay, I'm not getting there yet.
Because
Nolini experience. Not that. No.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Nolini on 1979. Because I found the full talk with him, and it is so beautiful and so powerful that this small group of ours.
Is it Nolini on your birthday? No.
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes. Mm-hmm. This small group of ours,
Yes.
which people have said who've come here, it's so devoted and so deep that they were amazed. So I'm going to read to you my experience with Nolini on my birthday in 1979. I had written him a long letter, 2 pages, single-spaced on my typewriter. No computers then. And I asked the following question: is Aurobindo, individually and collectively, now strong enough to stand on its own and seek the truth of its being? Or is a reconciliation with the Sri Aurobindo Society necessary? So Mary Helen my wife, gave him the letter, and he told her I should come on the morning of my birthday. When we came to the door, he warmly called, come in, sit down, anywhere. All places are the same. And of course, there were only 2 chairs. So he indicated to Mary Helen to take his secretary's chair, while I sat on the floor near him. Now, it was an aspect of Nolini one rarely sees. You know, he was generally a little bit stern, very few words, and this was completely different, a great sweetness and closeness. And he spoke generously and candidly to us for more than 10 minutes. He began speaking about Aurobindo and the numerous experiments Mother is making there. He said she is trying so many ways, and spoke of individuals and groups as units expressing or working out something specific. He said the whole world is like that, but you haven't come here to be like that, like the rest of the world. You've come here to realize the oneness, the unity. Regarding the question in my letter he had, it need not happen like that. And he spoke at length about the necessity for goodwill. He said it can't be just a superficial good, but a deep, sincere bonne volonté. He repeated this many times in different ways, and then spoke of the destructiveness of rancor. He said, rancor and hatred eat at the consciousness. It makes a man as low as an animal. No, lower, a worm or an insect. It comes from the lowest part of the being. Then he said, the world is in such a state. But one has to be a guru to be the leader of a nation. Then he was quiet for a while. When he spoke again, referring to goodwill, he said, I tell you this, speaking to me, because it is your birthday, that you have the capacity. He was silent for a moment, then said, no, no one has the capacity. It is all her. One only has to see her for a moment. She casts her glance, and it is enough. I then asked him, what about the matrimondia? He said, do not trouble yourself about it. It will go on. The work means nothing. Then comes this extraordinary statement. If I can find it again. Yeah. Then he said, pointing to each of us in turn, Mary Helen first, your body, and then me, and your body, and then himself, and my body, may all look different, but they are not, they are all the same. They are all her body, really. She has put a part of herself into each of us. And there's more, but I've run out of time, so. Any questions? Okay. We'll concentrate for a few moments, and then we'll do Om. Om.